Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the regular City Council meeting of the Farmington Hills City Council for July 23rd, 2020. If you are a member of the public and wish to dial in and ask a question or speak during public questions and comments, the number for that is 1-312-626-6799. We will begin as we always do with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can we now have a roll call of the attendees?
Mayor Barnett.
Here.
Councilmember Bullower.
Here.
Bridges.
Here.
Knoll.
Here.
Massey.
Present.
Newland.
Here.
And Steckloff.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is the approval of the regular session meeting agenda as published. Is there a motion?
Madam Mayor, this is Ken, and I would move approval of the agenda as written.
Okay, is there a second?
This is Mary Newland. I support.
Okay, it's been moved by Dr. Massey, seconded by Ms. Newland. Are there any additions or subtractions to the agenda? Seeing none, can we call the roll on the approval of the agenda?
Council members Newland.
Yes.
Bullower.
Yes.
Steckloff.
Yes.
Massey.
Yes.
Bridges.
Yes.
Knoll.
Yes.
And Mayor Barnett.
Yes. Next is correspondence. Does anybody have any correspondence to report that we all have not read?
I'm not certain, but I do have one. I'm not certain because I get it and received in the mails regarding a golf course.
Okay, go ahead.
This is the person who sent it did not sign his or her.
We lost
and
you,
he's
Jackie.
Complained that. Okay, can you hear me better now?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. It just signed a frustrated resident, and he's complaining because the driving range at the golf course does not seem to be operating as much as it has been in the past. And that it's a common problem, he says, that the range has been closed and he's seeing long lines of people waiting for the attendant to come in because people have lost money in the ball machine. So he's wondering what can be done to improve that situation there. And yes.
Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Boyer?
I'd just like to say that we've had a problem with a piece of equipment out there, and we have just reordered a ball machine that will take care of all the problems that we're having on the course. In the interim, we have an attendant that's sitting out there right now to help out, but that will be taken care of in the near future.
Okay. Well, I can't respond to this person because they did not sign the name, but hopefully they're listening and they heard your response that we will be taking care of that. And the money machine for the ball machine will be fixed shortly.
Can we post that on our website so that people who want to go to the golf course can read it there as an announcement?
Yes, and we're also telling the patrons out there what's going to happen. So we're passing the information along.
Okay, perfect. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. Unless anybody else has correspondence. Okay, hearing none. The next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered routine by City Council and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event the items may be removed from the consent agenda for consideration. And I will now ask for Mayor Pro Tem Valerie Knoll to read the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me all right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Okay, item number 2, recommended approval of the purchase of a Freightliner truck chassis with Wolverine Freightline East Side in the amount of $105,031 and purchase of a tandem axle dump truck with a slip-in salt spreader with truck and trailer specialties and an amount not to exceed $173,440. And this is CMR 7-20-82. Item number 3, recommended approval of the purchase of a sewer jet truck with M.
You're starting to fade in and out.
Okay, sorry, let me get a little closer to the microphone. I apologize. Item 3,
Okay.
recommended
No
approval
problem.
of the purchase of a sewer jet truck with MTech Company in the amount of $134,323. A quick view air pole camera with Bell equipment in the amount of $26,900. And specialty nozzles with Doheny Companies in the amount of $8,500. And this is CMR 7-20-83. Item 4, recommended approval of award of bid for the purchase and installation of 4 pickup truck snow plows to Weingart Supply in the amount of $21,692. And this is CMR 7-20-84. Item 5, recommended approval of the purchase of 5 vehicles with Signature Ford in the amount of $160,716. 2 vehicles with Berger Chevrolet in the amount of $52,667. And 7 vehicles with Todd Wenzel Buick, GMC, in the amount of $241,542. And this is CMR 7-20-85. Item 6, recommended approval of the vacation of a water main easement and 2 sanitary sewer easements, and approval of 2 agreements for stormwater detention for the Barbara Ann Carmanos Cancer Hospital, located at 31995 Northwestern Highway. And this is CMR 7-20-86. And item 7, recommended approval of the City Council regular session meeting minutes of July 13, 2020.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, Mr. Bridges?
I move that the council approve the consent agenda as read by our Mayor Pro Tem Valerie Knoll.
Okay, is there a second?
Mayor, this is Ken, a second.
Yes? Okay, so it's been moved by Councilmember Bridges, seconded by Dr. Massey. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote.
Council members Bolaware, Councilmember Bolaware,
Yes.
Steckloff,
Yes.
Massey,
Yes.
Bridges,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Newland,
Yes.
and Mayor Barnett.
Yes. And that now brings us to public questions and comments. We will begin with our County Commissioner, Marcia Gershenson.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Mayor. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
I'm so happy to be here. I've had some difficulty getting on to some of the meetings, and it was just a question of reading the directions a little more carefully. But as many people know, the county received $219 million in federal CARES dollars. And the commissioners have really been working hard to try to push that money out to the community. And we have another small business recovery grant, which we're pushing out for retail stores, restaurants, personal service business like beauty salons, fitness centers. any of those businesses and others that were impacted by the pandemic. We're going to be doing a rolling application. So I would encourage any businesses to apply. We're announcing our first round this week, and we'll be announcing the selected businesses for the next month, really. Also, the state of Michigan has another program. They received $100 million of CARES money, and this is to also support small businesses. And their grants are up to $20,000, and the application.
We're losing you.
Oh, shoot.
No, we got to the application. We're in the Michigan part.
Okay, so the applications are due for the state by August 5th. And then the third new one that I wanted to announce was intended for geographically and demographically underrepresented and disadvantaged individuals. And this is called the Michigan Entrepreneur Resilience Fund. And these are loans that can be forgiven based on your eligibility. So if anyone's interested, all this information is on our website at oakgov.com. And just a couple things in closing, I want to remind everyone to please wear your masks. And when you get out, if you haven't voted absentee, remember you can only vote on one side of the ballot. And I also just wanted to take a moment to commend Clerk Smith and the incredible job that she's been doing. This is an unprecedented time with an unprecedented amount of absentee ballots. So thank you all and stay safe.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for our county commissioner? Okay, then we'll move on to public questions and comments. You are limited to 5 minutes for any item that is not on the agenda for city business. If somebody has already said what you were going to say, please just respond with ditto or pretty much the same thing, and we can move through this. Is there anybody who would like to respond to public questions and comments?
Mayor Barnett, I do see hands up, so I'm going to release them as they come in.
Okay, and please remember to give us your name and street name and city.
Zoe, 1950, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Am I unmuted? Could you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, very good. All right. Well, I'm not actually Zoe. That's my puppy dog's name. Okay. My name is Glenn Whitelaw, and I live at 28766 Oak Point in Farmington Hills. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here I go. Okay, I am a grateful 40-year resident of Farmington Hills. During this time, I have consistently supported and appreciated the growth and development of the Farmington Community Library. But over the past 2 years, I have witnessed confusion, disorganization, mismanagement by the Board of Trustees and the new director, Riddy Grover. As a brief history of recent time, I want to go back to when the previous mayor, Ken Massey, was quoted in the media that he was going to, quote, shake things up at the library. To accomplish this, he appointed Bill Largent to the library board. Since that time, 11 board members have resigned from the board. I've learned that the consistent reason for this is due to Largent's demeaning, intimidation, and disrespect of board members and staff. This has caused the board to become a toxic environment. I've also witnessed these on Zoom meetings. Since Largent began his tenure, he has consistently bullied, undermined, and attacked the former director, Elise Straight, who had been working at the library for many years as supervisor, branch head, and finally director. She helped to develop the growth of the gem known as the Farmington Library. When Ms. Street finally decided to resign, understandably so, The board voted 7-1 to acknowledge her contribution over the years. In fact, Governor Whitmer presented her with a special proclamation for her excellent service over the years. Largent arrogantly and omnipotently wrote his own statement.
Excuse me, just for clarification, I would prefer it if we could keep the personal comments to a minimum and just talk about keep the personal comments to a minimum and just talk about the actions that you're dissatisfied with. I know that people get really emotional about certain things, but I don't want our citizens attacking other citizens on a personal level. So I understand where you're coming from. If you could just keep some of the adjectives you're using to a bare minimum to get your story across, I would really appreciate it. And I want to thank you for your comments so far. I will let you continue. But again, remember that we have citizens on both sides of this divide here. And I just want to make sure we're respectful since we're on the air and this is a public meeting. Thanks.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
This particular board member wrote his own statement that attacked both personally and professionally the previous director. In this statement, complained that the director had audaciously at one time snapped at me following a meeting. He went on to proclaim that he is the one who knows many things. Next, the board picked an incredibly passive and intimidated director. This opinion is from watching a number of Zoom board meetings. During a recent Zoom meeting, a board member asked the director what would be the cost of a proposed survey. When she began to answer, Largent ordered her not to answer the question at that time. She acquiesced. The board member did not demand an answer. The next point I want to do is this is going to be termed profiles and cowardice. On April 23rd at 9 p.m., an email was sent out to all staff informing them that they were being furloughed the next day and no one would be insured of rehiring or reinstatement. In nearly 50 years of being a professional at universities, hospitals, public education, I have never observed this time of treatment of the professional staff. Only a couple other libraries in Oakland County have furloughed the staff due to COVID. When some of the staff members returned to work, a letter was written to them by Largent and White.
Okay, you have 1 minute left.
Okay, that seems to be, all right. Well, you took some of my time, dear.
I know, that's why I gave you an extra minute.
Okay, there you go. All right. This letter stated that they're in the process of not making a good library, but a great library, but that they would not be using the staff in this process because it was felt that they would sabotage these efforts. So basically, they were going to develop a great library without librarians, which is completely absurd. There's also been, as you know, a petition to remove Largent that has received over 1,000 people. And he's also from this boasted that he couldn't be removed except by the governor. As I see it, the library, the cities of Farmington and Farmington Hills are ultimately responsible for the public library. If in fact and Largent should not be allowed to be a dictator. If in fact he cannot be removed, I would hope that the cities would at least appoint strong new members on the board with the hope that they can mitigate against Largent's destructive behavior. I would also hope that the city mayors and city councils would take a stronger oversight. If these steps are not taken, I fear that the destructive pattern will merely continue, and I cannot myself as being supportive of the library in the future.
Okay,
I appreciate you giving me time. Thank you so much.
No, I appreciate you coming forward. You know, this is a problem that is unusual. To all who are listening, I would like to explain that what we are faced with at this point in Farmington and Farmington Hills is an open seat in Farmington Hills and an open seat in Farmington. And it is true, while the library is funded by taxpayer dollars, those dollars are specifically earmarked for the library as part of the library millage. The law that set up the community library system created a system which produced an independent community library. And before we went to a millage for the library, the cities would indeed put money in to the library project. At that point, we had appointed our librarians and our board members for the Farmington Community Library. When we went to a millage, for many years, there was no conflict at all, and we appointed the members and everything ran rather smoothly. But the problem is when you have an independent library board set up under the community library system, it is true that the cities of Farmington and Farmington Hills can appoint members to the library board, but they have no power over the direction of the library, pulling money from the library, or indeed holding the library board accountable, and cannot indeed remove library board members. The only person that can remove the library board members is the governor. And I will tell you right now, she's a little busy with a few things. So we are stuck as the Farmington Hills City Council and the Farmington City Councils trying to do our best for our community, for the board members who have been toiling very hard, for the staff that works tirelessly in most cases, when it's not COVID-19, for our library, and all on behalf of the citizens that we serve. Unfortunately, it is becoming more and more clear that the citizens want more control exercised over the library board. And I totally understand it. When you come to us, you expect us to, as your voted in members, to run the city in a very, very specific way, providing the best services at the lowest cost and providing you a very safe city. And if we don't do that, you can vote us out or recall us. You have that power. Unfortunately, the way the library system works right now, you don't have that power over the library board, and neither do the city council members of Farmington and Farmington Hills. So as we move forward in this, you will see Farmington Hills and Farmington moving toward a discussion of moving to an elected library board that can then be held accountable to the voters. And I know this has been a very tough situation for everybody on all sides of this. And we want to do the best things for our citizens, as well as the people that work for the library and the people that donate their time to serve on the library board. So I hope you understand the position that we at City Council are in. And I wish I could give you different news, but at this point, we as a city council cannot interfere. And in fact, we would be interfering even if I and Mayor Bowman attended a library board meeting. That's not our place to speak at them or to try to control the meeting. So I hope you understand, and we will hope to get a resolution of this through our attorneys and further discussion with the public as we go forward to make sure that everybody is satisfied with the library board they have and the direction of the public library. Does that make sense?
Yeah, may I make one statement?
Yes.
Well, as a citizen who's been here for 40 years and seen the library, to be my honest opinion, the way the library is functioning now reminds me of a dumpster fire. And I hope something can be done to put it out.
Well, we are all aware that there are tempers and concerns on both sides of this issue regarding the board and the staff, and we are taking it very, very seriously. And I thank you for your comments.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Appreciate it.
Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Lisa Van Stone, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Van Stone, and I am currently a Westland resident, but I do work for the Farmington Community Library. I do appreciate Mayor Barnett's comments that she made. So I just want to kind of elaborate a little bit and allow the public that is also attending to know kind of what's going on. So I'm going to skip through a little bit of what I wrote so that way I keep emotions out of it as well. I am the
Thank
Children's
you.
Outreach Coordinator and the sole staff member extensively trained in special needs services for the Farmington Community Library, and I am currently furloughed. As you may or may not know, there are 70% of the library staff that are currently on furlough. And as a result, our library services have suffered immensely. Normally, in a time of economic upheaval, as has been speculated that will be happening as a result of the COVID-19 crisis, the library actually sees an uptick in patrons utilizing services. Unfortunately, despite increased demand for services, as we've been seeing, there is an insurmountable backlog of work, and patrons are unable to obtain the items that they request as a result. A very limited number of items are able to be ordered and processed, and the lists of items that to locate for patrons to pick up via curbside is thousands of items long, and tens of thousands of returned items are unable to be put away appropriately so staff can locate them to even pull them for curbside service. On top of all this, it seems that administration has become increasingly hostile to the remaining staff that are both currently working and those of us on furlough through a bunch of correspondence that has gone on. It is my belief that all of these issues are a direct result of mismanagement at the level of the library board and the director they selected, as was spoken about earlier. And the staff of the library want nothing more than to serve the communities of Farmington and Farmington Hills. But unfortunately, under this library board and director, library services will continue to fall into deeper despair. I encourage all members of council, though, as Mayor Barnett said, it would be interference if they did take a stand, to take a stand, condemn Mr. Largen's actions, and put pressure on him to stop this kind of behavior. It's not healthy for the board and those that are appointed by council that have to work with him, and it's not healthy for your community library. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments. Is there anyone else who would like to address council?
Suzanne's iPad, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My name is Suzanne Dengiz, and I live on Oak Point Drive in Farmington Hills. I am a retired Farmington teacher of 30 years and a currently furloughed library staff member of 12 years. I would concur with what both of our speakers have said. I agree with them, and I will try not to repeat too much of what they said, but at the current time, our library is in a state of great chaos. And we have, what the board decided to do was to furlough 2/3 of the staff. So we have 33 people working in both libraries when we normally have 133. And they are expected to do the job of all of these people. The library recently hired a new director, Riddy Grover, and I hate to say this, but she has shown a lack of leadership skills and is very ineffective. She rarely comes into the library, conducts her meetings with the staff over a speakerphone. Let's see. I don't want to repeat too much. Oh, yes, at the present time, I know Lisa said some of this, but it is just amazing to me that there are over 2,000 holds and about 10 to 15,000 materials that are still out, need to be either returned to the library, to be quarantined for 4 days, and then checked in and shelved. Everywhere in the library, there are carts and carts and carts full of books because there is no one to put them away in the proper places. This is one thing that I cannot understand. They said that they wanted to save money, but what they have done is they've refused to hire back our pages, and pages do the work. They earn a little over minimum wage, and they are the ones that shelve all the books and materials and keep the library running. And their pay is so much smaller than a librarian. And what we have right now are librarians who have master's degrees, and they are shelving books, cleaning the library, checking in books. And shouldn't they be used for the very important jobs that they were hired for the planning of programming and all kinds of things? And they're not being used that way. So at this particular time, we only have 1/3 of our staff that are working, and the rest are not. Let's see. In a recent letter, Mr. White, the president of the board, stated that no more staff members will be called back until the completion of the comprehensive service module assessment, which really none of us know exactly what that means. So many furloughed staff members want to work to meet the needs of our community, but this board is in no hurry to reach this goal. I'm very concerned about the future of the Farmington Community Library and whether it will be able to get up and running again with such contention between the board, the director, and the staff. We need the community to come together and make its voice heard. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming forward, and hopefully we can get all of these issues settled sooner rather than later. So again, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Stephen Kish, if you want to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Mr. Kish. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett. So I live on wonderful Springland Street in Farmington Hills, Michigan, and I've actually been a resident here off and on for 30 years. I'm 46 years old. And the only thing I agree with everything that's been said, but what I find really troubling about all of this is that the rationale for doing all this has been based off of some financials that the library board has not made privy to the taxpayers. And, for instance, like our millage was in 2011. And for a brief period of time, I was a volunteer at the library around the time of the millage. Leading up to that millage, the director at the time, Tina Thiki, managed to keep the doors open, keep pretty much everybody employed, even though leading up to that millage, the home values in Farmington Hills were in some cases half of what they were, and 1 in 10 taxpayers were delinquent. Now, according to this memo produced by the library board, it says, we do not know what our income for the coming year will be. Okay, fair. At this time, 8% of home loans are in forbearance, meaning that in addition to principal, interest, insurance, taxes may not be paid. And I take issue with this because, first of all, our home values actually haven't gone down since this whole thing. So, as far as the tax base, it should be as strong as ever. I'm not really sure what the delinquency rate is currently in Farmington Hills, but we should have a pretty strong tax base. And just the concept itself that 8% of home loans are in forbearance doesn't really factor into any of this, especially when banks right now are giving forbearance to get people through these hurdles and to be able to do things like pay their taxes. So what I would like to see, and I know you said that the mayors and the city councils can't get involved.
Mr. Kish, we're losing you a little bit.
Okay, you can hear me now? Anyways, what my point is that I would like to see some of the financials. I would like to see the underlying reason of why they're taking this action. I want to see projected home values, like what are economists actually saying for the area as far as what they think the tax base is going to decrease, unemployment is going to look like. I mean, if they're going to take these measures, I want a little bit more than just like sort of this fired off document that was sent to staff without any kind of reference, without any kind of data. And I think if we had that, you know, at least maybe we could have a better understanding across both sides of where we're at and maybe have more of a, you know, figure out a solution and how do you make this work. I mean, because until then, we're just kind of basically taking their word for it. And I mean, as far as like the home value decreasing, I mean, you can go look on Zillow right now. You can go see what homes have sold for in the last 60 days. The values haven't gone down. You know, I got my summer tax bill. I paid my summer tax bill. I suspect that's true across both Farmington and Farmington Hills. I think the money is there. So I just want to know why.
Okay. Yeah. And unfortunately, as I said before, we can't interfere with library operations, but I can tell you that we are forecasting at this point a decline in city revenue, mostly due to revenue sharing and a few other things that come in for roads that are based on non-property taxes. So I can't speak for the library, but we'll try to contact them and see what kind of financial information we can get, and hopefully share it at our next public meeting.
That would be terrific. Yeah, I mean, I think also I kind of maybe look into like, again, I don't know how this works with the Independent Library Board, but maybe Freedom of Information Act as far as if they have any kind of documentation. Because, I mean, they pick these numbers for some reason, you know, and I just want to know what it is.
Yeah, I think they're trying to be prudent. The state is facing a $3 billion budget shortfall. So everybody's trying to be very careful with the money they have now because they don't know what it's going to look like in a year. And COVID-19 certainly isn't helping our situation at all. Anyway, Mr. Kish, you're out of time, but I really appreciate you coming forward.
Sure.
And say hi to your mom for me, okay?
Well, bye.
Thanks. Okay, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we have Johnson.
Okay.
If you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, hello. My name is Michael Sharetta. I am not a Farmington resident. I live on Loganberry Ridge North in Novi. But I grew up in Farmington Hills. I have a lot of family in Farmington Hills, and I worked at the Farmington Library for 17 years, since 2003. And I'm here today, well, actually, so I want to kind of ditto, like you said, basically everybody who's gone before me, they covered some of the things I wanted to cover. So I might repeat a little bit, but I'm going to try to read some of what I prepared. So obviously, you know, it was covered that former Mayor Ken Massey appointed Bill Largent, and you've stated you don't really have control over what this district library board does, and that's for the protection of the library. It lets the board be autonomous and sort of weather possible big political changes in a city. So I support district libraries and what, you know, how that works. I think that's important. But it's important also for the public to know what's going on. And I think we have a lot of members of the public here today. So I'm going to elaborate a little more on Bill Largent's recent actions. And then mostly though, I want to talk about how that relates to how I'd like the what I ask of the city council when they appoint this new member of the library board. So just to sort of expand a little more, dittoing what people said about 11 individuals resigning from the board, many of them citing Bill Largent's behavior, also the respected director, former director being forced out. Also, I want to bring up an event in a recent board meeting when inspired by the killing of George Floyd, the board president proposed to make a motion, just a simple statement from the Farmington Community Library denouncing racism. And Mr. Largent took that opportunity to sort of espouse his own feelings on race in America in a several-minute monologue. He took that opportunity to apply opinions he has about his own marginalized minority group, Native Americans, and he boiled those opinions down. And then the bad part was he tried to apply those to the African-American community, which has a completely different history, experience, set of circumstances. And he made this direct quote. This is exactly what he said. He said, "If you listen to the media and some Black leaders, we would be led to believe that all of their problems stem from slavery, racism, and a corrupt or biased judicial system," sort of poo-pooing that sentiment, and going on to say, "I suggest we now have the green light to have these conversations." And so he's entitled to have these opinions, but I believe the problem was the use of the library board as a pulpit to discuss his feelings on what African Americans in our community and all communities specifically should or shouldn't do, or should or shouldn't feel in response to that really upsetting video of George Floyd being killed. And those comments I felt were really ugly and hurtful to the community. So that's part of when some of the things I want the library board to think about I hope you will think about when you're choosing a new board member is, I'm hoping you'll find somebody who's supportive of the library, supportive of the library's goals, its value to the community, supportive of all the different kinds of people who make up our community, and supportive of the staff who manage the library. So sort of this copies over a lot of what people have said earlier too, the current situation of the library with most of the staff furloughed and questioning sort of what the budgetary reasons for that. But I just want to talk about some of the services that are suffering as a result of this furlough. So the youth summer reading programs, which already suffered from having to be adapted to digital programs due to COVID-19. Some of the children's staff were finally brought back in sort of the second round of unfurloughing, which only got us to, 1/3 of the staff back. But they were brought back to expand the digital version of this important program. And it's extra important this year because kids had their school year cut short, and there's so much uncertainty of what school year will look like in the future. So getting kids reading this summer was important, but many of those staff have had to spend their hours working the curbside pickup because many other staff members haven't brought back. So we're sort of filling in those gaps. Same thing with adult programming. Those staff are pitching in to cover the phone calls that traditionally would be handled by lots of other furloughed staff and doing other jobs. And although we're now accepting returns and offering curbside pickups of holds, we started that process weeks after other comparable libraries in the area. We currently have hundreds of books just randomly arranged on carts that aren't sorted and shelved. And on those carts, there are lots of items, and it's thousands of items that are currently on hold, and they're in our building. We should be able to get them out to our patrons, but because of lack of staff, they're just sitting there and we can't serve.
Okay. We are up to your 5 minutes, so I'm
so fast. Sorry, thank you.
I know, and I do appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. We're just trying to get through a meeting here and give everybody a chance to say something.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Mark, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Okay, and I urge you to keep it under 5 minutes, but if you could get it under 2.5, that would be even better. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Mark Flessa, and I live on Summit Drive in Farmington Hills. Good evening. Thank you for the chance to speak. My name is Mark Flessa, and I've lived in Farmington Hills since I was a young child. I went to grade school here, graduated from North Farmington, and have worked here most of my life. But for more than 9 years, I've worked for the Farmington Community Library in the circulation department. As we've all heard, the Farmington Library has been in turmoil long before today. But I wanted to present to you some hard data that shows just how poorly this institution has been operating under its current leadership. One of the most popular services that a library provides is the ability for patrons to put items on hold. If an item is currently in the library building and checked in, that item goes on the pending holds list. Every day, library pages and circulation staff collect the pending holds, process them, and make them available for pickup. It's a wonderful and convenient service. Because of the COVID-19 quarantine, placing items on hold is more important than ever, since many patrons, even if the library was open, would not enter our building for fearing of their own health. However, because the Farmington Community Library only offers curbside pickup, that's the only way they can pick up items. Unfortunately, the decisions of the library board and the director they hired have made this wonderful service ineffective and, to be frank, an embarrassment. This morning, I contacted several libraries in our area inquiring how many items they had on their pending holds list. The numbers are as follows. Novi, 220. Redford, 84. Auburn Hills, 77. Northville, 85. Commerce, 77. Now, based on my experience, that sounds like a typical number for us. However, right now, as of this morning, Farmington Hills location had 2,894 pending holds, and the downtown Farmington location had 705. That's a total of 3,599. You'll notice that the next largest on the list, Novi, is doing 16 times better than the Farmington Library. If you average the other libraries together, FCL is doing 33 times worse. What can explain this? It's not difficult to discover the cause. Unlike Novi, Redford, Auburn Hills, Northville, and Commerce, the Farmington Library is governed by an ineffective and incompetent library board and director. Unlike those other cities, the Farmington Library furloughed the vast majority of its employees. Those employees in those other cities are doing the job that their residents value. They are doing the job that the citizens of those cities paid for. It is clear that the citizens of Farmington Hills are not getting the level of service that they deserve. And why is that? It is because the library board and the director they hired furloughed the vast majority of SCL staff, including nearly everyone responsible for making sure that the citizens of Farmington Hills can get the items that they want. So I ask you, when you decide who will sit on the Farmington Community Library Board of Trustees, please make sure you appoint persons of integrity and skill. Please appoint people who are more interested in the strengthening of this important institution and the services it provides than their own resumes. Please appoint persons who will stand up to the board's current members and make the right decisions. The citizens of Farmington Hills need their library. They have supported it with numerous millages and with their patronage. And I assure you that the staff of the library desperately want to return to work. We are public servants and we want to serve. Unfortunately, the library board isn't interested in our education, our experience, or our service. It is clear that this disinterest robs the citizens of Farmington Hills of services they so rightly deserve. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your comments, and I appreciate you stepping forward. Is there anybody else who would like to comment?
Jeff's iPhone, if you would like to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Jeff. Hello, my name is Jeff Pavlik. I live on Edmonton Street in Farmington Hills for the last over 20 years. First of all,
and you're a great baker.
Thank you, ma'am. First of all, I'd like to say ditto, ditto, and ditto, and ditto, and ditto. This has been a very enlightening discussion, and I hope everyone's paying attention. But I think the most important thing to recognize is to look inside ourselves and wonder how much we care about libraries. Myself, speaking on for me personally, and I think I can speak for my entire family, we respect and libraries like no other institution. It is one of the greatest things that our democracy has ever allowed our public to have. Anyone in our town or outside of our town can walk through those doors and learn what they feel like they need to learn. And most importantly, there are professionals there to help us. I think the word librarian is sometimes used and discarded because it isn't given the weight and value of their education, their academic prowess, and their love for us as individuals and citizens of our towns that walk through those doors. Those people care about us way more than almost anyone else I've ever met in this town. And the library is one of the, if not in my mind, greatest things that we have in our town. It's an asset that we should be so proud of. And yet at this moment, it's being wasted away by people who don't seem to have the same love. And I think we just need to say that if you don't love libraries, then don't touch them. Leave them alone. Not everyone loves books like the rest of us. Those of us that like databases, I like having ability to research. I love looking through their files. They get me information from all over the world and bring it to the Farmington Hills or Farmington Library, and I can pick it up, and it's a trust. They trust that I will take care of that document, and they tell other librarians, yes, you can trust this person. It's built on trust, and we're breaking that trust as citizens. As a business owner, I own Sunflower Bakehouse at 33250 Grand River. We've had a long and strong relationship with these libraries. Why? Because they are so professionally run. We know that as a business, we can't mess around with our money, and we need to give it to people that know what they're doing. And these people know what they're doing. They are highly skilled at going through and managing what they say they're going to do. We trust them. We have always supported, as a bakery, as a personal, as a business, as a family, two things only: libraries and public schools. We don't do electoral politics. But I do feel, and my family feels, that at this moment, we need to move from this appointed library board to an elected library board. And we are going to support candidates who also feel that way. We are going to get into electoral politics for this issue and this issue only. We feel that strongly about it. We know we'll lose customers over this. But at this point, I would rather lose a few customers than lose the amazing library system that we have, because it is not going well, and we need to deal with this now. This is just a crisis that we have to deal with. And I'm sorry if I sound very passionate, but I feel so strongly that we are losing an asset that we might not be able to get back, and we're losing trust that we might not be able to get back. I truly hope that we figure out a way to talk about how to make this into an elected board, an accountable board, a board that represents the citizens and is people that want to run for this board better love libraries more than me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate your comments, and you spoke right to the heart of what the problem seems to be for the council members of Farmington and Farmington Hills. We can't weigh in on this problem because we only have the ability to appoint, which means nobody has oversight and there's no accountability. And we are going to look at making the library board an elected position so that you know when you vote for somebody that you can hold them accountable, because I think that's the most important thing to do when we're talking about individuals' tax dollars that they gladly give in exchange for a great service.
The bakery will be a private place that we can collect petitions at. Whoever wants to collect petitions for such a move, the bakery is open to you, and we will support you with our resources and our space.
Thank you. And we have our city attorney working on how we move in that direction. And I know we've talked to the city of Farmington, and they are looking at the same thing. Nobody wants to be in a position where we have staff upset, where we have board members upset, where we have citizens that can't get their needs met, where we have all of the contentious things going on that we have going on now. And I don't think you can just put it at the source of one person, but what has happened is the situation we're in has exposed a great weakness in our ability to properly manage taxpayer dollars that are not dollars that go to the city of Farmington Hills or the city of Farmington, and instead go to an appointed library board that we have no oversight over. And again, I thank you very much for your comments. And your lavender cake is really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Yeah, Demeester, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is Emily Demeester, and I'm a Farmington resident on LeQuinn Court, and we live walking distance from the Farmington Library and also the bakery. We love the bakery. I've got a 7th grade student, and we have been going to the library since she was a baby frequently. It's been a huge part of her life growing up. and we love our librarians. We love our library staff. It's just been shocking to me this summer as a parent, as somebody who's always used the library so much, to see us lagging so far behind other communities in our area. We can't get books. We're one of the many families on that hold list waiting for materials. And, you know, it's not such a big deal for us. We're finding other things for her other ways, but we're fortunate that we have the ability to do that. And I worry about the children in our community who don't have the ability to be paying for those resources right now, or who just aren't reading this summer because they can't access the books from the library. And right now, parents, as a parent, we're more responsible than ever for our children's education with the limited access to the schools. We more than ever need the library and all the resources it has to offer. We need all of the staff on deck with the ability to research, find tools and resources for parents, grow programs for parents to help us while we're trying to keep our kids safe and more community-based this year. We just desperately need our libraries. So I hear that you're limited in what the council is able to do. I just wanted to say where we're at as a family, and that we're pleading that you do whatever you can to get us our library access back and return the library to what it used to be in our community. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I know that this is a tough time for parents to have to deal with educating their kids and getting the resources to them that they can. Is there anybody else who would like to comment?
Joe O'Connor, if you want to mute yourself.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Joe O'Connor. I'm a Farmington resident. I live on Shiawassee, just a few blocks from the library. 3 kids that have gone through the school system. I have a daughter that's entering high school at Farmington High. I had a question for the mayor. You've mentioned a couple times about the city attorneys from both cities are looking at moving to a process where we would have an elected board. Do you have and again, not specific, but an approximate timeline on how long something like that might take?
I'm not sure. We have to find out how we move in that direction. Is this something that the citizens need to vote on first before we come up with a plan? And so we're just, all I know is that we need to move in a direction that solves this problem and holds board members accountable in a way that the citizens feel comfortable with. And I don't have a timeline for you, but maybe we'll have something we can offer at our next meeting in August. I'm hopeful that we'll have some kind of comments that our attorney can give us so that you can tune in and find out where we are on a possible timeline and how fast we can do this. So I hope that answers your question, even though it doesn't really answer it.
Well, no, it really doesn't. But is it something that could happen as soon as the November election or no?
I don't know. As I said, I don't know if it needs to go on a ballot first to have the citizens vote on whether they want to move in that direction. If so, it may be too late to put it on this November's ballot because we have to have things in and approved by the Secretary of State's office in a timely fashion. We've got the primary coming up on August 4th. And then right after that, the ballots have to be prepared and ready for the general election to follow all the laws to make sure that we have them out for service members overseas. And that is a process, and that window may have closed already. City Clerk Pam, do you know when that date of closure for submitting something to the ballot is?
I don't have that exact date in front of me, but I'm guessing with the timeline that we have to have discussions on this first, that's going to be well past in order to get it on November. And I'm not sure that that's the right process.
Yeah, you're breaking up quite a bit.
That it has to go forward.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know what the process is, but I believe we needed to have something into the Secretary of State by early July. So that deadline is passed, and we don't even know if it needs a vote of the people. It may be just a resolution by both councils. Again, I'm not a lawyer. We leave that to our city attorneys, and hopefully we'll be able to report back to you at our first meeting in August, at least some preliminary information.
Yeah, just one final comment.
And I don't even know if our council agrees. I'm just saying, I'm just throwing it out there.
I don't know if they agree either, but this situation has pointed out a glaring problem in the system that we currently have, where you can have someone appointed and not be removed by and not much input from the citizenry, the taxpayers who are funding the library, and got someone who has been, since he's been in that on the board, been churning board members through there, and all the a good portion of the employees are their livelihood is being sacrificed for what appears to be his own agenda. So
well, again, I don't want to lay it at the feet of one individual person.
But when did it start?
Well,
I mean, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. That's
I know, I'm trying to be
and I
gentle.
understand you're being diplomatic. But
yes, I am.
That's my final comment. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll come up with some resolution that makes the citizens, the board, and the staff happy and holds everybody accountable.
2 out of 3 would be fine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Christy Cooper, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Christy Cooper. I am from the Library Defense Network. I live in Ypsilanti. I help community library workers advocate for their libraries when their administrations can't or won't. And sometimes they're actively making decisions that are fundamentally harmful for the mission of libraries, which unfortunately appears to be the case here in Farmington Hills. And I will tell you, this kind of problem comes up a lot more in libraries with appointed library boards. I'm going to skip over some of the other things I was going to say and say ditto. You probably know that 11 people have resigned since Bill Argent started in just 2.5 years. That's a lot of people. It's a pretty damning track record. I worry that whoever you appoint will also resign, and I suspect many of you are worried about that as well. I did want to ask, and I just got the question people had still. Since the current situation, there's one board member down, and now there's actually 2 down in Farmington. So right now, currently Bill Argent's power is approximately 1 in 5 rather than 1 in 8. So we're wondering what the timeline for appointments currently looks like.
That's a good question. I am waiting until after the primary election, and I do want to hear from our city attorney as to what our options are going forward before I appoint. And we have a lot of people who have have sent in resumes and would like to be appointed to the board. So I have to go through all of them, and then we need consent from our council. I usually give them some time to vet my choice and see if they've got any glaring issues at all. That's just my policy, but that's not the way the law reads in the city of Farmington Hills. But I do like to give my council an opportunity to vet my choice. Mm-hmm. So Christy, I really appreciate what you do, and the fact that you're just now telling me that more problems come from community libraries that have appointed boards rather than elected boards pretty much confirms what my concern is, and that is accountability of the library board members to the community that they serve.
No, thank you. And I wanted to add that I appreciate that that's something you are already looking into by the time I end up attending these kinds of meetings. The fact that this is already on the table, that's fantastic. And it's a great long-term solution. But and I think everyone here understands that the mayor and council can't recall a board member. But one thing that can also help is, publicly calling for the resignations. Until Mr. Largent's term runs out, Whitmer gets involved or he resigns on his own. Pressure from other city officials is an important, meaningful gesture for the sake of the library, the staff, and the community. So this is just something to think about. because the damage that has been done is going to take a lot of work to undo. And the sooner Bill Argent can be stopped, the sooner the library can be restored to the community gem you all know it can be. Thank you.
Okay, again, I don't like to lay all of the problems that we're encountering at the foot of one person, because I can tell you I've talked to a lot of people in the community, both on the board, citizens, and other directors, and have found problems on all sides that need to be addressed. And they're not being addressed, and I'm not going to go public with all of them yet until we have a study session with council on it. But this is not just a one individual problem. There are many, many issues that we're dealing with that are popping up all over the place. And you might be very helpful in us reaching out to. So
no, and I agree. I'm saying from assessing the situation, that there are other problems with other people for sure.
If you would send me your contact information to my city email address.
Oh, absolutely.
That would be terrific. And I will reach out to you.
That's fantastic. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Barnett.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak?
Mayor Barnett, I don't see any other hands raised.
Okay, then is there anybody else that in the public that would like to speak? Okay, this is great. So we can move on. And again, thank you all for weighing in. It's difficult to address the library situation from the council's perspective because our hands are tied. But I just want you to know that we hear you. We understand the frustration. And again, it's not one individual causing all of the problems. There are significant issues to go around. And the sooner we can address them all, the better off our Farmington community library system will be. And rest assured that council in Farmington and Farmington Hills, the council members are as concerned as all of you are about the operation and the fulfillment of the duties of our public library to our citizens who pay the tax bill there. Next, we move on to council member comments and announcements. Are there any?
Mayor Barnett, Bridges. Go ahead, Mikhail.
Go ahead, Mr. Bridges.
Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Bridges.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment that you're clear in regards to the fact that we don't want to give the impression to the public that we have any say-so of what the library operation is all about. And you made that clear, but I also want to amplify that because according to the Library Act, we don't have any operational responsibility there. And what we can do is basically listen to what the public has said about this issue, which is a very important issue, and that we continue to investigate the issue regarding if the library election process is the way to, in order to rectify the situation. He's offered that as an opportunity. However, I just wanted to be clear that that we don't give the impression to the public that we have any other operational nor organizational responsibility on the library, because the act does not really allow us to do that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Massey?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. My name was brought up a couple of times during those public comments, so I think it is incumbent on me to say something along the lines of this library issue. And it does interest me that a lot of the people were talking about financials. And while it is true that District Library Act of 1989 does handcuff the city in terms of what it needs to do, the one thing it does not do is relieve us of our taxpayer responsibility. We are the elected officials that have to do the face forward to those people that are paying the taxes. And when we went to an appointed board and a popular millage, then it puts the city council into a very strange place, which is we are the elected officials. You can't have taxation without representation. And therefore we are the elected officials that have to look face forward to our tax-paying public for what they want in a library. So we have a very strange arrangement in that we have that responsibility, but we have zero authority with the exception of appointing a library board and library board members. And I am going to go back, and an issue came up, and every taxpayer in this city should want to know how their tax dollars are being spent. And it was brought up several times in this by the residents, and they are within all of their rights to be concerned about what's going on with their tax dollars. That said, the previous library board refused to allow the tax or the budget for the library to be part of any discussion. It was asked because there was an issue that came up, and the then library chair indicated that, well, it's a budgetary issue. We have to make this decision. We said, okay, great. Let's all sit down, talk about a budget. We had 2 study sessions with them. And the bottom line is, after multiple requests, the then executive director and the board of trustees at the time refused to divulge what their budget was. They finally did give up an audit, but that did not contain what the budgetary discussion was. Previous executive director, it was mentioned in one of the comments, Tina Tiki, she did a great job. She presented budgets to the council prior to her. Bev Pappy, I mean, multiple pages, exactly what the goals were, how the budget related to solving those goals. All of that was put forward. I decided when I was sitting in your seat, Madam Mayor, I made a very difficult decision after multiple requests that I would appoint an individual who did have a very strong interest in the library. And I understand there are all these folks that want to point fingers at one individual, but that one individual spends an inordinate amount of time reading and in the library, and had a great deal of respect for that, and also a strong business sense. And his approach was going to be, let's look at the budget and so forth and make sure that we are becoming a library, not just of what we need now, but what we need in the future, and work with people to do that. That was not appreciated, and immediately, and it's been said several times in several comments, and I really wish people would not take comments out of context, but the entire, out of the 8 library board of trustees members, 6 of them immediately decided they didn't want to participate anymore, and I felt that that was probably a protest of some type. But the new library board moved on. Subsequent to that, the few people that have left the library didn't do so. Only one did so because of an individual. The other ones did so for business reasons. Their job increased in scope. They didn't feel that they had the time to commit. One literally moved out of state. So to try and pin it on any individuals, I think that's kind of a slanted view, and I'll just leave it at that. The individual is very interested in the library, but not just the library of the past, but our library and technology is driving us in new ways, and the new folks, the new uses of the library are going to become very different. And the library needs to be looking at that. And the current library board has been talking about moving things. How do you do it? How do you move towards something where you can Google, and I don't want to support just Google, but you can actually...
You can Bing.
You can do a lot of work and never go to a library. And I will say that in my training, I spent half of my days in libraries, and now I could almost do it and almost never walk into a library. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, and the interest is, how do we deal with that and make sure that we are not just meeting the needs of today, but meeting the needs of tomorrow? And that's the reason they brought in the director. She articulated a way of doing that. And I really wish folks in the library would actually glean onto that, realize things are changing. It's not going to stay the same. We need our libraries. They're incredibly important. It's already been articulated tonight, the importance to homeschooling. But now we've got this overview of COVID and this whole pandemic thing, which has changed everything. And somebody went through, one of the callers went through the number of items on hold in every library system around us. ours is different. Why is ours different? Well, ours is different, but every state is handling the COVID issue differently. Every county is handling it differently. Local units of government are handling it differently, and every business is handling it differently. So there's a number of overlaid things here. And the current library board has made huge strides in really bringing up the back office issues, HR, the payroll, accountings, facilities. That's all public knowledge and things that they've done. They are really trying during this down period to restructure the library so that it remains that beautiful, the jewel that it has always been in the community, not just for today, but for going forward in the future. And if this is all personally driven, and a lot of these comments are on one individual, sometimes you're on a board and you've got people around you that are difficult to work with. And you have to learn how to deal with that. But it isn't, when comments are taken out of context and people are thinking about things because I know this person or that person, we need to focus on what the broad picture is. And I think if people would take a deep breath, look at this, and I encourage our residents, this board of trustees, every one of them is looking at this as how do we go forward to continue the value that the library brings to this community. Nobody wants to tear it down. There's no personal agendas here, and that needs to stop. And we need to come together as a community, support it, articulate what our concerns are. We need to work together. Honestly, I do kind of think that perhaps an elected board where the taxpayers have their elected officials to talk directly to would be a potential strength here. But we need to stop the finger pointing, and we need to start going, okay, let's embrace this. I think that all of the majority of these folks will be back to work shortly as soon as they can figure out how to deal with, how the library wants to deal with this COVID thing. And we need to support them and get them moving forward, give them the criticism, give them the constructive comments, and work with the library board to support them and move them forward. Thank you for allowing me to say a few things.
Oh, no, thank you, Dr. Massey. I appreciate it. And again, there's enough blame here to go around. So, and there's enough good things that could happen. Ms. Boulware, you wanted to say something?
Yes, my internet is not that stable, so if I'm going in and out, please let me know. But I want to go on record to say that I support going forward to look to see if we can have an elected board for the library.
Well, that's our hope, is that we can get some information from our city attorney.
Yes. Now, with that being said, let me move on to a different subject. Recently, I received an email from Rachel Timlin talking about our school camps here in Farmington Hills that's open on a limited enrollment. But what I was really impressed with is she said that when the state inspector came to inspect our COVID plans, they said they were the best they'd ever seen and that they should be used as an example for the rest of the state. So I'd like to congratulate whoever got those plans together. I know it was difficult, but to have that accolade from the state inspector, I think is really noteworthy. And I'd like to thank everyone who was responsible for that.
Oh,
I'd also like to
go ahead. No, that's a nice thing. Thank you. Rachel does a good job.
Yeah. And I'd also like to mention that as the council person who is on the art commission, they put together a very interesting project that started on July 13th, I believe. And what they're doing is they want to know how people stay creative during this pandemic. And they're asking individuals to post what they've been doing creatively on their.
We just lost you.
Use the hashtag of F as in Frank, 2 as in just 2H, and then stay creative. And I think that was something that's what was worth mentioning. And my final point, my final comment this evening is, I'd like to see if it's possible that we could go to a video Zoom meeting with everyone's wonderful faces on it. And I'd like to ask Pam if she could perhaps check with other communities to see what they're doing as far as the video portion on their Zoom community meetings, council meetings. And I'd also like to ask Stephen Jaffick if perhaps he can look at that as well to see if there's any, I don't know, legal ramifications from doing this audio portion to and not a video portion, to see how that impacts the Open Meeting Act. And perhaps we can move in that direction, because it appears that we're going to be on Zoom for quite a while. And I think the visuals are so much more effective and impactful, because some people can like to hear people talk and other people like to look at them when they're talking to see the inflections and all the nuances of their conversation. So that's all I had to say this evening.
Okay. I can tell you personally that I don't think I would be a lovely face to look at. My hair is channeling Albert Einstein at this point. So it's quite amusing, but I would vote for audio only until I can get to a hairdresser. Anybody else have any comments during council members' comments and announcements?
Yes, this is Mary Newland.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
Mary.
Oh, go ahead.
And then
Valia, go ahead.
Okay, this is Councilmember Valerie Knoll. I'll be real quick. I would have concerns going to a Zoom meeting with photos. I'm not sure. Hopefully, most of you did not notice, but we were photobombed tonight. That's what those strange comments were, the profanity. And there were also some very disturbing images that came up on the screen too. So I don't want to see that again. Not a pleasant sight, just in case there are younger children on the Zoom meeting. And that is a risk that city councils face, and that's why the majority of city councils in Southeast Michigan have not been choosing to have the video and have only been doing the audio. I actually would like to see if we could start talking about how we can get back into City Hall. All of our employees are back in City Hall working, and many of us, others of us are actually back at work working, out and about again. We're not under the stay-at-home order anymore, so I think there's ways it can be done very safely. I actually attended a city council meeting for a very large city in Southeast Michigan. Just last week, it was their first live meeting. They moved the city council meeting to a large community room rather than their chambers, so that every council member was 6 feet away from each other. They took every single chair in the community room and moved it 6 feet away from each other. And so that also at the podium, you had to wipe off the podium with, you had to use hand sanitizer, you had to wipe off the podium and the microphone after any public comment with a disinfectant. So they were able to have an in-person meeting very safely. So I would like it if this council could consider how to do that, and if need, and maybe there's a way that we could even do both. If there's certain council members that don't want to go back in person, maybe there's a way that they can call in, but others, as well as the staff, can be in a community room, a large community room, so at least we can have some video where we can see each other's faces. So that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Okay, Mary Newland.
Yes, going back to the concerns regarding the library board, it gave me thought that maybe if we cannot potentially go to an elected board, but maybe there might be another option that we could do to sooner, is that maybe if we need to think about as a code of conduct for boards and commissions that would cover all boards and commissions that we have in the, that would be, maybe it would be a faster solution than potentially going to and elected if that's going to take some time. So just think about maybe, a code of conduct, because we have a code of conduct as, of course, as elected officials, but maybe there could be some kind of guidelines that would be good for all commissions.
Yeah, that was discussed earlier, but the problem again is the Farmington Community Library Board is an independent board. So it would not fall under our codes of conduct should we try to extend it to them. They would have to formally adopt a code of conduct of their own.
Okay. But we might want to think it for all the other ones then. So,
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Dr. Massey, I think we do have a code of conduct. Dr. Massey?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. And both council persons, Knoll and Newland, were not on council when the city council passed our boards. We did a board and commission. We changed.
Knoll was on.
What's that?
Knoll was on.
Yeah. Did I say Knoll?
Knoll.
Oh, I thought I said, it's just Councilwoman Newland and Councilwoman Buller were not on.
Right.
And we did that. We actually went through and we did a full comprehensive review. Councilwoman Steckloff, Councilmember Bridges, Councilmember Knoll, all were part and parcel of what we hoped to be at the time, like a 2 or 3 week discussion, and it turned into 16 months worth of discussion as we reviewed each and every one of the boards and commissions, and we have a lot of them in the city. Talked through it, looked at standardizing all of the boards' responsibilities, reporting requirements, everything else. And one of the things that came out really, really strongly from the then Board of Trustees chair was, we're the library board and we fall under District Act in 1989, and you can't tell us to do these things, but we'll come to the board meetings and can report back. So while Councilwoman Newland's idea, we all tried to do that. It has merit. It just, for the reasons and with the state law, it ends up being on that Board of Trustees to deal with that. So that's just one of those educational pieces.
Thank you.
Here,
Does anybody else have any counts? Oh, Mr. Jopik, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to also mention as part of that discussion that long ago, back in 1989, City Council did adopt a code of ethics, its own code of ethics, in addition to the state laws. That does have many provisions in it regarding conduct of city officials. But you're absolutely right, Mayor Barnett, in terms of the ability to enforce that against library board members. I haven't researched it to the extent that there might be some enforcement mechanisms, but I highly doubt they would be very effective because of the autonomous nature of the library board. But I did want to let City Council know that there is a code of conduct that applies to the various boards and commissions, in addition to the materials that Councilmember Massey was just talking about that we worked on more recently. And also wanted to mention, I will have an updated report to the board or to the council on the statutory procedures and legal procedures to convert from an appointed library board to an elected board. I did provide a report a number of years ago to council, but I'll update that and expand upon it. I think it's a brief summary back then, and so it's a more serious discussion at this point, so I will expand upon that and have that ready for you within the next week or two.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Yes.
Anybody else? Okay, that moves us now to the city manager update.
Good evening, council. Hopefully you can hear me tonight.
Yep.
I just wanted one update. We have a hazmat, one of our first hazmat drop-off days for the season with going on with COVID. We have not had a hazardous drop-off day. It's different this year. It will be held on a Wednesday, August 19th from 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. at OCC Orchard Ridge campus, and it will be on the parking lot off of Farmington Road. So that is an opportunity for you to bring in your hazardous materials and have them picked. This will be the only date that we have this year in Farmington Hills. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. That now brings us to the closed session. Do we need a motion to go into closed session for the consideration of approval to discuss the AFSCME collective bargaining agreement?
Yes, we do.
Okay, Mr. Bridges?
Yes, I move that we move into a closed session.
Okay, is there a second?
Madam Mayor?
Okay, yes?
The motion does need to include the purposes of the closed session within the body of the motion itself.
Okay, the motion will include discussion of collective bargaining with American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees. Don't you want?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so it's been moved by Mr. Bridges, seconded by
Ken.
Dr. Massey, that we go into closed session. This will be a roll call vote. We may return back to do we need to include that we will return back to an open meeting, or can we just adjourn and then go into a closed session?
We will be going into a closed session, a breakout room for closed session, and then coming back to the open meeting to adjourn.
Okay, so there will be no business as we know it after the closed session.
Correct.
Okay, got it, I think. There's no way to just close out this meeting and then move to a closed session?
Well, it's all part of the same meeting, so we do need to go into the closed session, then come back out just to adjourn the formal meeting, the regular session.
Okay, got it. So it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote to go into closed session.
Councilmember Steckloff?
Yes.
Massey?
Yes.
Bridges?
Yes.
Knoll?
Yes.
Newland?
Yes.
Bullaware?
Yes.
And Mayor Barnett?
Yes. Now, once we exit this meeting, is there a new meeting for us to join?
You do not need to leave the meeting. So Carly is going to take us into closed session. You'll get a box that pops up that will ask you to join, and you just hit join.
Okay.
Okay. It'll just prompt you through the whole thing, but you never have to exit anything.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.